The biggest gift ISIS got after the collapse of their caliphate was the Turkish invasion of northeastern Syria. I do want to talk about Joe Biden's foreign policy for a second. I put out a tweet last night about an issue I care a lot about, but have gotten very little help with. Or at least the Biden administration has done very little. Joe Biden's Syria policy is not as bad as Trump's, but it's still bad. It is still bad. And I've kept quiet on this because I've been waiting to give Joe Biden the chance to change his policy on Syria, to change his policy towards the YPG, the SDF, you know, the Kurds in northeastern Syria. I've been waiting. I've given him as many, it's been 2 years, okay? He just won the midterms. He can say anything he wants now. Like, he doesn't need to be tied to the political back and forth of it. And he has failed. So for those of you who don't know, Turkey is set to launch what seems like a quote-unquote counter-terrorism operation in northeastern Syria. The Kurds allege, at least the leader of the SDF, allege that Turkey is going to actually try to attack and take the city of Kobane, which was the battleground where the Kurds actually turned back ISIS. It was a very famous battle. I have an old video on my YouTube channel about it. If you guys want to go check it, it's on my main channel, DylanBurnsTV. It was ISIS's Stalingrad, is how I put it. And it seems that they're worried that the Turkish military is going to cross the border, enter SDF territory, and try to capture Kobane. And if that was to happen, and if Joe Biden was to allow that to happen, that would be a massive, massive disappointment, a massive failure upon Joe Biden. Because I remember talking about on the campaign trail, when, well, I wasn't on the campaign trail, but when people were campaigning in 2020, that one of the main reasons I'm not voting for Donald Trump is because how he backstabbed the Kurds. He backstabbed the Kurds. He went to them, he told them he would support them, and then the first chance he got, he allowed Turkey to invade and conduct a military operation in northeastern Syria. He gave them the go-ahead. And then he flip-flopped on it. First, he gave them the go-ahead, and he pulled out of our troops, which allowed them to do, like, free operations in northeastern Syria. Then he redeployed our troops in once he got pushback from all across the political aisle, including his own. Then he pulled them out again. Then he redeployed them. He kept flip-flopping on this issue. So not only did he backstab the Kurds, but he kept getting second thoughts and readjusting. Then never mind, I'm going to keep going through with the backstab and going back and forth. And this back and forth led to the deaths of a lot of people, thousands of people. Not only did it lead to the deaths of thousands of people, but there was Turkish-backed mercenaries, terrorists that Turkey are funding and giving weapons in northeastern Syria. They dragged Kurdish politicians out of cars, and this one female politician, they grabbed her by the hair, beat her before executing her on the side of the road. That's the reality of the Turkish occupation of northeastern Syria. And that was also the reality of their invasion and operation, I think it was Peace Spring, on Afrin, where they displaced thousands of Kurds from their home. And the Kurds who have tried to return from their homes have found their homes basically filled with people who don't own their homes. They've displaced them and removed them from their territory. A lot of people, including me, could say that it looks a lot like ethnic cleansing of Kurds in northeastern Syria. Because actually it would be a friend, so it would be northwestern Syria. Anyway, Joe Biden, when faced with this threat of another Turkish invasion in northeastern Syria to fight our allies who we worked with to fight ISIS, who lost tens of thousands of souls in our coalition in Operation Inherent Resolve to fight ISIS, Joe Biden promptly, when posed with this threat, he stood up straight, he pulled up his belt, and immediately caved to Turkey, and says that Turkey continues to face legitimate terrorist threats in the south, and has a right to defend itself. Not only did Joe Biden and the White House backstab the Kurds with this statement, this is no different than what Donald Trump did. What's the difference? If this ends with Turkey invading northeastern Syria and taking more territory, how is this any different than what Donald Trump did? Can anybody answer me that question? How is this any different than what Donald Trump did? Why do you think Biden is so bad on this? What benefit is there to placating Turkey, if any? I think, want to know what I think? I think in an attempt to try to strengthen NATO and get Sweden and Finland in NATO and keep Turkey as a, a good partner with NATO and keeping them happy and working with NATO, especially in the fallout of the invasion of Ukraine, that they are willing not only to throw the Kurds in Sweden under the bus, which they did. They're trying to get rid of the amnesty they have and possibly deport them back to Turkey. But now they're throwing the Kurds in northeastern Syria under the bus in order to placate Turkey. And I think it's the wrong move. I think it's bad when we backstab our allies and show ourselves to be unreliable partners. I think it's bad that this is probably going to lead to the deaths of thousands of civilians, possibly ethnic cleansing. Not only ethnic cleansing, but also just more destabilization of northeastern Syria. The biggest gift ISIS got, and Turkey's talking about fighting terrorists, the biggest gift ISIS got after the collapse of their caliphate was the Turkish invasion of northeastern Syria, because the chaos it caused allowed ISIS to do prison breaks, because the Kurds, the YPG, the YPJ, all the different militias under the banner of the SDF, the Syrian Democratic Forces, they were busy trying to deal with ISIS sleeper cells and terror sleeper cells, trying to go into caves, bomb them out, and kill them, and get the stragglers. And what that invasion did was not only took away forces from anti-ISIS operations, the immediate effect of the Turkish invasion into northeastern Syria was a 75% decrease in anti-ISIS operations. Not only did it allow that to happen, and took away resources from the fight against ISIS, which should be the core purpose of our mission in Syria, and is the core purpose of the mission of Operation Inherent Resolve, but it also allowed ISIS fighters to conduct prison breaks, because there were less guards guarding them, and more guards had to go out north and fight against the Turkish invasion, which led to ISIS getting some of its most diehard foreign fighters and its most diehard imprisoned supporters back into their ranks, putting guns back in their hands and sending them out to do more terror attacks. We even saw a massive battle take place in northeastern Syria where they tried to conduct a massive prison break where hundreds of people have died. And who knows if all those deaths would have happened if it wasn't for the Turkish invasion of northeastern Syria. And in some of the instances that have been covered by the Rojava Information Center, seems to suggest that the Turkish government has literally taken former ISIS fighters and given them guns and sent them into northeastern Syria to supposedly fight terrorism. Is this what Joe Biden's endorsing? Is this what the White House is endorsing? The biggest terrorist threat to northeastern Syria right now is Turkey. Period. Because they're the one that is giving ISIS breathing room and have been accused of doing business dealings in the oil trade with ISIS during their caliphate, supplying them with money. And as the Kurds were trying to fight back against ISIS, Turkey didn't help. Why? Because they were more scared of a free and independent Kurdistan than they are of the Islamic State of Syria and Iraq, of ISIS. They are more afraid of Kurdish sovereignty because of the Kurdish population within their own borders than they are of ISIS. That's why there were a million accusations against them of how they wouldn't close the border. In fact, I think the first reply to this tweet is an American official talking about how Turkey wouldn't close the border. Actually, I think we can just play it quick. Yeah, it's from Brett McGurk. Who, if those of you who don't know, he was our envoy during this operation, during Operation Inherent Resolve.
I ran the ISIS campaign. 40,000 foreign fighters, jihadis from 110 countries around the world, all came into Syria to fight in that war, and they all came through Turkey. The caliphate was on the border of Turkey. We worked with Turkey. I was in Turkey more than any other country to have them seal their border, and they would not do it. They said they couldn't do it. But the minute the Kurds took parts of the border, it's totally sealed with a wall.
Look, I think Joe Biden's better than Trump on foreign policy. But there seems to be a general American problem that when the going gets tough or it's no longer useful, we throw our allies to the wind. And you know what that says to our potential future allies? America's powerful, but America's fickle. It doesn't commit itself to relationships. We enter the Iran deal, then we leave the Iran deal. We support Operation Inherent Resolve in the Kurds, then we pull away immediately when the going gets tough. We support the ANA in Afghanistan, but then we're not going to evacuate all the people we need to evacuate. And there's some people who want us to go backstab the Ukraine on top of it, making ourselves look even more untrustworthy. Look, I know that my viewers like Joe Biden, or at least think he's the best option out of him and Donald Trump in 2020, right? But it's also our job to hold him to account too. I mean, we talked about all the time that if Joe Biden messed up, we need to hold him to account. So this is me trying in some way to hold him to account. Don't backstab our allies. Don't let Turkey, just because they're a NATO ally, conduct a campaign of terror in northeastern Syria. And don't allow the blood that Turkey's about to get onto its hands to spill onto us by us looking the other way as the allies we supported and we supplied are about to get massacred by them. And we saw what happened when they did the last operation. They pulled politicians out of cars and executed them on the side of the fucking road. It's gonna happen again. The Biden administration cares about Ukraine, and that's a good thing. But the moral worth of a Kurdish person is equal to the moral worth of a Ukrainian person. We should stick by both of our allies here. And this is a disgrace that the Biden administration has done basically squat to dissuade this invasion. And seems to be almost tacitly endorsing it. Not out of an interest of seeing their allies smashed, but out of an interest of placating Turkey. Joe Biden here is weak on Turkey, and it's a bad look, and he needs to reverse course immediately. I mean, this was a major issue for me going into this election. And so I really wanted to give Joe Biden a fair shake here, but this is really, really bad.